This week on the show, from Mr. Robot, Sunita Mani, Jon Glaser, Evan Allgood, plus me, Dave Hill. It's the Novelizers.
Don't want your popcorn, don't want your milk duds, don't want my shoes stuck in pools of sticky cola. Don't show me romance, don't show me fist fights, just show me words printed out under the book lights. Yeah, baby, novelize the movie. Give me sentences, paragraphs, nothing to see. Novelize the movie. Write a book and turn it into a podcast.
Welcome to the Novelizers. We've got an incredible show.
And we have a special surprise guest in the studio this week. Me.
Hey, Steve. That's 3 weeks in a row. Surely, you've had 3 weeks. Surely you've seen Dirty Dancing by now.
I haven't seen it yet. I will probably see it by next week, though.
Oh, man.
You gotta watch it. There's so much intercourse.
You've had the better part of a month to watch this film.
Look, do you know how many episodes of Seinfeld are on Netflix? Literally all of them.
They won't watch themselves.
No.
Yeah. Cool. This is the show where we take classic films and we get comedy writers to turn them into hilarious audiobooks. And then we get celebrities to narrate them. And what celebrities do we have on the show today besides you two celebrities?
Yeah, we're major. But we've also got Sunita Mani. She's an actress, dancer, and comedian best known for her role as Trenton in Mr. Robot, and Arthi in the Netflix comedy show Glow.
And we've got Jon Glaser, an actor, writer, and friend, and comedian known for creating and starring in Adult Swim's Delocated and Neon Joe, Werewolf Hunter, and one of my favorites, Jon Glaser Loves Gear.
But that's not all. We've also got Evan Allgood. He's a writer whose work has appeared in The New Yorker, McSweeney's, and Vulture.
Nice.
Gosh, this show must be expensive to make, Steven. How do you do it?
I'm rich. No, I'm poor. I sell things that I own on eBay. And also, with your support, not you, Dave, but you, the listener, you just go to patreon.com, look up the Novelizers, pitch in a few bucks, and it's the gift that gives back a tenfold.
Yeah, don't even get me started. Hey, Steve, where are we in the story?
Yeah,
Hey,
Steve.
I'm glad you guys asked. Even though I've never seen it, I can honestly tell you that Neil catches Baby with Johnny, but thinks that Baby's just taking dance lessons. Not winning. Well, I'm glad you asked me, Dave and Steve. In actuality, Neil catches... Oh, boy. I'll tell you where we are in the story, you nut sacks. Neil catches Baby with Johnny, but thinks Baby's just taking dance lessons. Neil forces Johnny to change his resort finale dance from the mambo to the pachanga, ignoring Johnny's ideas and threatening him with being fired. Baby and Johnny fight over Baby's unwillingness to stand up for Johnny in front of her father, who's played by Jerry Orbach.
Wow.
Did you get that, people? Changing the dance from the mambo to the pachanga. You don't just make that switch. That's a huge move. No, that's not like...
That's a death sentence for most people.
Yeah, that's not like I'll have Sprite instead of 7-Up. That is a major...
It's like asking me to go from smooth to crunchy Skippy. Not going to happen in one day.
No.
Nope. Wind up in the ER. Sunita Mani, novelize me.
Chapter 12. Real change happens in the trenches. Novelized by Evan Allgood. Narrated by Sunita Mani. Outside, Kellerman's guests were hopping around like bunnies and humiliating themselves on the volleyball court. But in the hot confines of the dance studio, Johnny and Baby were back on their choreographic grind. Literally, they were grinding on each other. Emboldened by their recent tryst, Baby was getting a little big for her denim britches. She corrected Johnny's form and compared his biceps to wet noodles, and not the al dente kind. Baby was too young for him. She didn't even have cataracts. Still, Johnny Castle couldn't deny that she raised his drawbridge. They weren't so much rehearsing as writhing on the parquet like worms in heat. The floors were filthy, coated in a thick film of dust and mouse droppings, but then they didn't call it clean dancing. Before long, they were competitively lip-syncing to some song whose lyrics were heavy on the baby. That summer, it felt like they all were. Johnny dropped to his knees and blasted a killer air guitar riff in Baby's direction. He could practically see the sound waves radiate outward from his rippling arms, landing square in her pelvis and sending a jolt of pleasure into her nether regions. Johnny'd penetrate her dance space, all right. He was taking a big whiff of Baby's magnificent midriff when that smug whelp Neil crashed the party, coming up the stairs in a stupid gray outfit that underscored his sickly complexion. Why did he always look so greasy? Was he eating those god-awful Danishes that Kellerman pushed on people? Those things were pure garbage.
Dance lesson, baby,
Neil said. Boy, nothing got past him. No wonder he was the boss. Neil offered to teach Baby some moves, and it took all of Johnny's willpower not to squeeze the life out of him like Bruno Sammartino. Instead, he switched the record player off with a comically loud scratch, startling Neil, who jumped like a cat after a car's backfired. Imagine being frightened by the cessation of sound. Baby batted away Neil's offer, hoping he would take the hint and give her and Johnny some privacy so they could get back to lip-syncing at each other and rolling around in mouse feces. But the catch of the county was no paragon of self-awareness. He beelined for Johnny, said he'd been thinking about the final show. Oh great, Neil had an idea. Johnny swallowed the urge to dive out the window brain first.
You always do the mambo,
Neil said, his hot breath reeking of sweet gherkins. Not Danishes. Pickles, or maybe both.
What if this year we mixed it up and did the pachanga?
The pachanga? The pachanga? Johnny gripped the diamond in his pocket so hard his fingers started bleeding. The pachanga, Johnny said, grinding his molars into oblivion. Well, that would certainly get a strong response, Neil. The guests would take up pitchforks and torches. Kellerman's resort would be ash and cinders by dawn. The fucking pachanga. I'll think about it, Johnny said, forcing a smile.
Whoa, 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 Neil said. Don't hurt yourself, Castle. Leave the thinking to me, okay, hot pants?
He patted Johnny's cheek with a pickle-sticky hand. If Neil wasn't Kellerman's grandson, Johnny would have done the godforsaken pachanga all over his windpipe. Neil could tell he was getting a rise out of Johnny, which only encouraged the whelp.
You just swiggle your hips around when I say so, he said.
Unless, of course,
you don't want a job next summer.
Neil grinned, his grinchy mouth lousy with gherkins. Johnny looked at Baby, her eyes pleading with him to stick up for himself. You know what, Neil? Johnny said.
Yes?
Neil said, slowly drawing a pink slip out of his sleeve like some twisted magician. He was about as subtle as one of Johnny's uncle's sledgehammers. Yeah, whatever you say, Johnny said. The pachanga. That'll go over like gangbusters, Daddy-o. Now we're cooking with gas. He threw in a couple more period-specific slang terms to establish the setting. Baby couldn't bear to look at him. Maybe Johnny didn't have spaghetti arms, but he did have a spaghetti spine. Neil patted Johnny's cheek again, then turned on his heel and strode away victoriously, doffing an invisible cap to Baby as he made his way to the exit. He paused at the top of the stairs.
Hey, Baby, he said. You know Castle's been humping old ladies all summer, right?
Johnny wanted to break the needle off the record player and jam it into the whelp's flaccid neck.
Anyway, Neil said, hope you enjoyed your lesson.
Johnny stomped down the path to the woods, his shiny black shoes leaving deep imprints in the ground.
Johnny, wait,
Baby said, trailing after him.
Why did you roll over for Neil like that? You're only supposed to roll over for me.
Johnny kept walking. His pickle breath was making me sick, he said. I couldn't think straight. I thought I was gonna hurl.
But you just stood there while that little shit lorded his power over you.
Johnny whipped around and ripped his sunglasses off. He owns 2 hotels, not 1, 2! He could have me disbarred by the Catskills Dance Instructor Association like that, he said, snapping his fingers. Shh, 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 shut up, you beautiful idiot, and put your shades back on. Baby pulled Johnny down behind a bush. Not in the mood, baby, Johnny said. I've still got gherkins juice on my face. No, look, Baby said, pointing. Her dad was walking with her sister, Lisa, and Lisa's new beau, the insufferable Robbie. Doc Houseman draped his arms around the other two, all of them decked out in Brooks Brothers, a riot of colors ranging from khaki to cream to beige and even taupe. I've been thinking about a lot about the domino theory, Lisa was saying. Dominoes? Johnny whispered to Baby. Your sister always struck me as more of a croquette gal. Baby shoved a bunch of leaves in Johnny's mouth to silence him. Lisa went on about Nam or China or some nonsense. Johnny never cared for politics. Real change happened in the trenches, on the dance floor. Finally, Lisa quit yammering, and the 3 of them went off to sip Chardonnay and critique each other's sweaters or whatever it was rich folks did when the poors weren't around. Baby stood up slowly, Johnny following her lead. Oh, that was close, she said. Maybe we should get you some camo or just break up? Johnny removed his shades and spat the leaves out of his mouth, raking the bugs off his tongue with a furious Yeah, can't have Daddy finding out you're porking a choreographer, right, baby? Johnny, when are you going to tell him about us? We slept together one time a couple days ago, and I'm significantly older than you. I think your father should know. I'm not sure. That's what I thought, Johnny said, donning his sunglasses. I guess I'm just too much of a fat loser for the great Dr. Houseman. What? Johnny, you're totally shredded. Oh, but you do think I'm a loser? That's really nice, baby. That makes me feel like $1 million, like a great big pile of pocket diamonds. Johnny turned around, started to walk away, stopped, whipped back around, ripped his shades off and threw them against a tree, where they became lodged in the trunk. I've got a dad too, you know, he said. I kind of figured you did. The old man called me up the other day, and you know what he said? He said, Hey, Johnny boy, good news. Your fat slob loser of an uncle said he can get you a spot in the house painters, plasterers, plumbers, polishers, builders, bricklayers, sweepers, swipers, stackers, smashers, pool boys, chimney sweeps, and miscellaneous gutter punks local 179. That seems like a really long name for a union. They're general contractors, baby. Then why aren't they just called General Contractors Local 179? The old man says to me, Hey, John, you ready to stick your pathetic tail between your loser legs and move back to Plattsburgh to fulfill your fat slob bum destiny? I thought you were from Pittsburgh. Where I'm from, baby, is nowhere. Who I am is nobody. Don't you get it? Johnny pulled his backup sunglasses out of his leather jacket and shoved them onto his face so hard that he broke his nose. If you ever figure that out, he said, you know where to find me. I'll be walking barefoot back and forth across a big log like some crazy shirtless kung fu dancing man, muttering to myself, Slim and Miller High Life, fondling the ridges and the contours of the bark with my feet and wondering, why on earth my girlfriend doesn't want to be seen with me? Johnny threw his jacket over his shoulder and stormed off into the forest. Baby hated to see him go, but she loved to watch him walk away.
Thank you, Sunita. Guys, we'll be right back after this.
And we're back. Each week on this show, we find someone who actually worked behind the scenes on the film Dirty Dancing, and then we interview them about their experience. this week is no exception, and we've got Jon Glaser on the show. Here's a little tidbit. We went to, Kevin went to interview, Kevin, our co-host, our fourth co-host, went to interview Jon Glaser, and the look of disappointment when he realized it wasn't going to be Dave Hill talking to him was palpable. He was like, "Oh, you."
I could see that.
Yeah. But he did great. And he told us so much about his experience working on the film.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the interview portion of the Novelizers. I am Kevin Carter, and I am here with Jonathan Glaser, who is the dirtometer for the movie, or was the dirtometer for the movie Dirty Dancing. Jonathan, how's it going today?
It's going okay. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying I have no clue what a dirtometer is. I'm thinking it's somebody who monitors dirt. But can you explain to the audience what a dirtometer is?
Yeah, of course. This is a job that was created specifically for the film, and I'm not sure if there's been a person who's done this before or since. They needed to. They wanted someone when you have a film called Dirty Dancing. The dancing has to be dirty, right? And so they wanted and needed someone on set at all times for the dance scenes to make sure the dancing was dirty. And there was a fine line there. They didn't want it to be too dirty, and they didn't want it to be what I called like under dirty. And so I would be on set during all the scenes to let them know if it was either dirty enough, too dirty, or not dirty enough, etc. So that was basically my job.
Okay, so what would you say is an example of under dirty and an example of too dirty?
Sure. So if it's under dirty, it's just not dirty enough, where it's like we would want to push it a little bit, like maybe a hand grazing a tush, maybe a hand sort of nuzzling the side of a breast, which we saw, of course, when Patrick brought his hand down next to Jennifer and kind of grazed her.
Yeah, just with the back of the hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I like to, I sometimes say titty and people don't like that. And so I'll try to say breast. But, if it was, and I would be off camera just yelling like dirtier, not dirty enough, and they would just edit that out in post. The sound guys did a great job of editing my voice out, because I was really, and I'm going to go off mic for this, I was offset like dirtier, less dirty, and I was screaming, and we had a lot of rehearsals, so the actors would be used to that and not be distracted while they were dancing. But it all worked out. I think it worked out great, and it translated on screen.
That's very good. I noticed that, like you said, you were using words like, and for this interview here, you're saying tush and breast and everything like that. When it comes to the way you were yelling at them, were you saying tush and breast on set, or was it more of a titty and ass thing on set to really get them in the zone?
It would depend. That's a really good question, actually. If it was a dirty dancing scene, I might say, instead of tush, I might say ass, I might say onion, I might say rump, I might say, just like, grab that shit, and, squeeze that fucking thing. And, it was obviously not an R-rated film.
Yeah.
But, again, like I'm watching for, I want to make sure there's no boners that we can see in a pant, the wardrobe, a lot of, cool jeans for the Dirty Dancing crew. But, we don't want to see I don't want to see a rock hard, I don't know if I can say dick on this podcast. You can bleep it out.
I mean, once you say titty and ass, I think dick is okay.
What about cock?
I mean, we can, if anyone has an issue with it, we can refer it to the chicken. So I think we'll still be okay.
Do you say that again?
To it like a chicken or like a rooster or something. So if it's okay.
I see. Yeah. I mean, we can say, if that's a shorthand, when the audience hears me say cock, they know I'm talking about a dick and not a rooster, but we can just pretend it's a rooster.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I'm just making sure no one's, for example, like one of the, like the obviously the famous scene where Patrick lifts her up at the end and all the, one of the original ideas the director had was to have Patrick hold her up with his penis, with his erect penis. That was going to be
that was the original idea.
That was the original idea because, again, it was Dirty Dancing, and the original script was very explicit and very dirty, bordered on an X-rated film.
Gotcha.
And they had to tone it way down. So, that was my job, just to make sure there was nothing. It had to strike a fine line and a really good balance to make sure it was dirty And obviously everyone's interpretation of what dirty is different. And we struck a specific tone.
Yeah, and that was my biggest thing too. We talk about Dirty Dancing. This movie came out in the 80s and stuff like that, and it was like, dirty in the 80s is not dirty in the 2000 in the dubs, it's in the 2020s and stuff like that, right? So my thing is, because it seems like your job is to limit what the possibility of this movie is, right? Like, so we're using the word dirty, but to me, watching the movie almost 30 years later, I didn't see nothing dirty about it. So at the time you were doing it, was that considered dirty, like truly dirty?
Well, it was also, there's two things at play here, and that's another really good question. So not only this film was made in the 80s, but of course it's taking place in the 60s.
Gotcha.
And so what's the interpretation of dirty back then? Like, this was stuff. And of course it's also, there's a lot of what we consider dirty, what we think maybe people considered dirty in the 60s is maybe dirtier. And so we tried to keep that in mind, where it wasn't too nasty, even though that shit was going on in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s and the 30s and even the 20s. Like, I would personally love to see a version of Dirty Dancing that takes place in the 1920s. Like, that would be pretty great. And then I'd love to even see a very futuristic version, like a post-apocalyptic Dirty Dancing, where maybe people are turning to dancing and even turning to dirty dancing to forget their troubles. So there's a lot of ways you can view this film, which I think is a really also cool way to look at it.
Yeah, you really just blew my mind with the whole post-apocalyptic thing. Like, I can really see like a Mad Max type of Dirty Dancing film where it's like they're literally dirty, so they're out there dancing and stuff. So that'd be nice.
That's a really interesting notion. Not one I'd thought of, like just people that are filthy. They haven't showered. Yes. There's no resources. It's like The Walking Dead. I want to see the reality of, there's no running water. People stink. They're filthy. How do they deal with that? And then on top of it, they're trying to dance.
They're trying to dance. Exactly. And then do ballroom dancing on top of that.
Yeah.
And just in dirt, just ballroom dancing. I would really love that. Would love to see that.
Yeah.
Question
and
for
also
you.
Just sorry to back it up. And just to see like a dirty cock. What's that going to be like if you actually see a dirty cock or a dirty pussy, which we can say to be a cat. So we're talking about roosters and cats.
Yes, roosters and cats. Yes, roosters
and
cats.
How does that affect it? So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. I like that, roosters and cats. Now, a lot of people who's done these interviews, they've always talked about people who were like castmates or actors and actresses who were difficult to work with or very easy to work with. Did you have anybody like that in the show, in the movie, that was either difficult or easy to work with when it comes to that dirty meter and you can try to get them in that right position?
Everybody was pretty open to what we were trying to do. And, I wouldn't say anyone, there was no one that sticks out. I mean, listen, people were just willing to get nasty, and that was kind of fun. And, we're talking about theater people. They're open-minded. Usually, you've obviously got some people that are not, but this was, people coming into this job knew what they were signing up for and they wanted it, man. And, a lot of the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor it was raunchy, man. Like, we had some really, and I'll say this, one of the people that was the most enthusiastic and ironically was playing someone that was Jerry Orbach. Like, he just wanted to get down and dirty.
Really?
And he sat in on all the rehearsals.
Yeah.
Kept pitching ideas. He's like, what if I you make me one of the dirty dancers? That's a terrible Jerry Orbach impression I'm doing. He's like, what if you kind of do one of the, give me a mustache and a wig and some sunglasses? Like, he was constantly pitching ideas to just be in those scenes just so he could dirty dance on film. He did it all the time in his trailer. And I always felt, I was all for that idea. He was so into it and he just had to play the opposite. But God, he really, and he let me just say, I don't want to get graphic or speak out of turn, but he really enjoyed himself in those rehearsals.
When you say enjoyed himself, like he just had a good time?
He really got into the dirty dancing. Like,
okay.
He was a guy that was like, the dirtier, the better. Whenever I would say it's too dirty, he's like, not dirty enough. What are you talking about? He was always, and not in a way that we would get in arguments. He just was always there and really wanted to push. He wanted to push it. So he always was wanting it to be dirtier.
Yeah. So if you needed him to do something, he was ready to do it.
Oh, for sure. He was ready to throw down at any moment. And again, he wanted to be in these scenes so bad. And it was kind of tough for him, I think, not doing it. And of course, having to play the uptight dad and not wanting his daughter to go with that group. And it was the opposite. In real life, he was just a wild man.
Yeah. Okay. That's good, because watching the movie as an adult, it was like, I can't imagine a life where the dad is upset that he don't want his daughter to hang out with other ballroom dancers. The thought of that was just very weird. So I'm glad he was the complete opposite, Offset. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, he was a cool dude, man, and also like a really good basketball player. We played a lot of just half court. We had a good half court set up on the set, for in between lunch breaks and when people weren't working, and he could play ball, man. He looks
like
dude.
He's tall though. He got to be like 6'2", right? 6'2".
He's a big dude. I think he might even be 6'4".
Wow. Okay. Yeah, he looked tall.
And he could handle the ball pretty well. And, he was just like he was a guy that just great actor, great guy, loved to play ball and just wanted to fuck. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. In that back in the day, that's what else was there? You're already an actor, so what else is there? It makes perfect sense.
They're theater people.
Exactly. People. That's exactly what theater people do.
He was a cool dude, man. Jerry Orbach was just what a great, God, everyone loved him. Loved him. So he was probably the dirtiest. I mean that as a compliment.
So the term dirtometer, it seems like a very niche position. Like this position you have is only for this movie ever. Right. How did you get to having this job on the set? Like what was life like before the movie that led to this moment?
I was a dog walker for years, and I just I love dogs. I enjoy doing that. I still do that quite a bit. And one of my clients was working on the film, told me about it. And I just, said, oh, that sounds cool. Like, how dirty is the dancing going to be? Like, what does that mean? And he said, oh, I don't know. I guess we'd have to figure that out. And I just said, oh, I'd love to help. Like, I've got a pretty good eye for that. And long story short, I got the job. I just got brought on by a buddy. And again, it was a job we created for the film, for me. And once the film was over, they're really, I tried getting other jobs and other films that had dancing in it, but it was never about dirty, less dirty, whatever. So again, it was a very, very specific job that I had for that film. And, I'm waiting for the call. If anyone ever does a movie where there's something where they have to figure out how far can they push it? Maybe I'll get that call, but I'm not holding my breath.
So when it comes to life outside of that, are you back to dog walking now, or is it something else going on?
I do a lot of dog walking. I just really love dogs. I'll still, sometimes I'll put on the film and just pretend I'm on set. I know that sounds weird and maybe a little sad, but it's tough. I wish there was more films about dirty dancing, or that would have dirty dancing scenes in it. I'd love to get back into that world, but I'm also pretty content walking dogs.
Yeah. So, and I see that, and it seems like you have the type of mindset and the lifestyle of, hey, if it happens, it happens. I did it. I rode the wave, and I'm good now.
Yeah, and I'd also say quality over quantity. I don't need to do 1,000 films that have dirty dancing in it. I did the one truly iconic Dirty Dancing film, literally called Dirty Dancing. And if that's all I ever got to do, that's pretty great.
Yeah. But if I'm being honest, right now, the post-apocalyptic one sounds amazing. Like that should really happen. It should really happen. I
agree. And it's listen, I'll just say this in case there's Hollywood people listening. It's a screenplay I've been working on. I have 2/3 of a rough draft of it. I think it's really cool. Right out of the gate, it starts off with a dirty dancing scene. Yeah. We see, like there's you see a lot of, missiles raining from the sky, mushroom clouds, just really a nuclear apocalypse. And then from that, we see these people dancing and they're filthy. And that's how the movie starts. It's much more than that, but that's a general idea. And then from there, it's just tons of dirty dancing. This is What else is
This is
there to
almost
do with
like, but this, like, you don't understand, like this, like the what you're saying right now is very like in my brain
that? Mhm.
because I write screenplays as well. And
Oh, wow.
I was writing one literally called Dirty Dancing as well. However, it was spelt like how Nelly says dirty, and it was going to be like a hip hop, like a Hamilton hip hop
Ooh.
musical, but it was called Dirty Dancing, spelled like how they used to do it in St. Louis. But it was kind of on
Oh.
the same thing.
You know, when you just said that, when you said it was called Dirty Dancing as well, I thought that was the full title, Dirty Dancing as well,
Oh,
which I think is a great
yes.
title, you know, because
Yes.
there's, you know, I'm sure people have had ideas for a sequel called like Dirtier Dancing or
Yeah.
more Dirty Dancing
Yeah.
or something like that. But I like Dirty Dancing as well is a
Mhm.
really intriguing title to me, at least, because
Yeah.
it feels like, what does that mean?
Exactly. Because it feels like the movie's going to be about other stuff, but then there's Dirty Dancing as well. like there's other things
Yeah.
happening, but there's also Dirty Dancing too.
Well, I think, you know, the story in Dirty Dancing is so compelling, and obviously people love, you know, the love story and the story with the family, but also just, I wouldn't mind just, you know, 70 to 90 minutes of just Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Like
And
nothing else happening.
I don't even know if you need it, you
True.
know, where it's just, you can tell the story through the dance and
Mhm.
through the dirty dance, I would even
Mhm.
say. So dancing as a form of storytelling, it's an old art form.
Yep.
But dirty dancing as a form of storytelling is, I think, pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, my version gave me very like the hip hop Nutcracker vibes, where it's like they're
Oh.
break dancing, but it's just the music, no words. And they're just break dancing through music, but it's just called Dirty Dancing, and they break dancing to Nelly albums and stuff. So
I'd love to see, even like, that makes me think of like just the dirty versions of stuff, like the Dirty Nutcracker, dirty, you know, on Dirty Golden Pond.
Yes.
That's just one that popped to my head. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
I would love to see just Dirty Dancing get put in more films. I think
Yeah.
people clearly love it. There's an audience for it.
Mhm.
And so maybe this interview will give rise to more Dirty Dancing in films and get me a little more of that work. But
I
again,
hope so.
I love dogs and I love walking dogs. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy. I'm content, but I got what I think is a great screenplay and just needs a chance.
And this is, like I said, this is good conversation. This is why the interviews are important, because the listener is going to hear this, you know what I'm saying? And they're going to see what's going on, because I've never had able to talk to another screenwriter. I've never had the chance to do that. And just the way we're building and vibing right now, it just seems like it's just a matter of time this is going to happen, you know?
Yeah, when you think about how when people's paths converge, and listen, if nothing else, honestly, and this is just me, I'm just this type of person, like if it happens for me, great. And if not, even if this interview inspired someone out there to just be less inhibited and be more dirty and maybe just try Dirty Dancing, and it just kind of helps them open up as a person,
Exactly.
even spiritually. You know, Dirty Dancing can also be a mindset. You don't have to literally or literally dirty dance.
Exactly.
Dirty Dancing can be
It's in here.
a frame of mind and
It's
how
in
you
here.
go through the world and how
Yeah.
you respond to people.
Yeah.
And so I also like that aspect of it. And again, knowing it maybe helped one person, that also makes me feel good.
That's good. There's definitely been moments in my life where I feel like I'm just going through life. And if I had the mindset of, nope, I think now's the time to dirty dance, you know, so now's the time to dirty dance and go for that promotion. You know, so this is time to dirty dance. I think I'd have been a little bit further, you know, than where I am now. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Find inspiration wherever you can.
Mm-hmm. Like how was life, like growing up for you? Because it seems like you had this great idea when it comes to monitoring dirty dancing and things like that. But I still feel like there's more to, like you immediately just said, I'll do it. I'll do that. I'll judge the dirtiness. And it seems like there's already something within you that can already look and kind of notice what's too dirty and what's not dirty, even whether it's dancing, porn, whatever it is. You like, this ain't dirty enough. This is too dirty. Was that something you was always able to like, you were just a gauger. You just gauged a lot of things growing up. Was there anything like that?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question. I don't know. I guess I always felt like, because even when I got the job, like, again, I'm a dog walker. I was talking to my buddy who was working on it, and this was just a simple question for me. And So I don't know. I mean, I guess now that you asked that question, I'm trying to think, like, maybe I did. Like, I don't recall ever feeling like, oh, like the dog's too dirty, or, you know, or my parents telling me I was too dirty, you have to clean. Although now I'm thinking, like, my parents made me bathe twice a day, every day. Now I'm even like wondering if this is becoming like a de facto, therapy session. where
Yeah,
I'm
like
learning
let
something
me
about
miss a little
myself.
trauma there. Maybe he was doing too much cleaning, and now it's like you realize, hey, this is too much. I have a meter now within my life and within my brain. I have an internal meter. What's too much and what's not enough.
Man, I'm like really sitting here just going through like the Rolodex of my mind of just
Yeah.
my childhood, and I'm starting to.
It's a healing session as well. Like these interviews, they can go anywhere. They can take us anywhere. We've covered a lot. Sometimes it's okay to just sit back and reflect on. What I'm saying, because I think what this does is it helps you do more screenwriting and hone in on that script for that 1/3 that's left over from the
It's just
script.
like-
It may change some things.
I'm just remembering things that I wish I hadn't remembered.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
No, I know you didn't mean to, but just
Okay.
from this conversation, like I'm
Yeah.
just like, this is all of a sudden, like, I just thought it was a thing that, again, I'm a dog walker. My buddy was on the film. I'm like, oh, what about this? And I got this job. And now I'm like, I never thought about why am I good at this? You know what I'm saying? And now that you asked that question, it made me start to wonder, and I'm putting some things together in a way that I never have before.
Yeah.
That's pretty, oh my God. This is I was going to say I might have to call my my parents after this and ask some
Have a little talk with 'em.
questions
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
about, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's okay. I had the same kind of revelation even with this podcast. What I'm saying, doing all these interviews, and I was like, I'm getting pretty good at interviews and everything like that. But I had to look back in my life, and I realized, oh, I'm only good at this because I'm nosy. I'm just a nosy person. Growing up, I was always in somebody's business. I never knew how to mind my own business. So now, it was just learning that, understanding where I came from, to help build this and being okay with being nosy and always in people's business.
It just seemed like 2 baths a day seemed normal to me. It never seemed, I didn't know anything else, and I still do it. And I didn't even make that connection until right now. And now I'm wondering, just there's other things that I'm starting like, oh, but then this, and then my parents did this, and then I started doing this. And maybe when you go through life wondering, why am I like this? And I never thought about it other than, oh, this is just my job. I can tell them what's too dirty and what's not. And I never thought about why I was able to, this is just,
yeah, I'm glad, but I'm sorry as well. I didn't mean to, saying rock your world like that. It's just an interview,
No, I get it. I'm not mad at you. I don't blame you for anything. Again, I agree. We're just talking, and through this conversation, I'm starting to realize some things that are kind of tough. And honestly, this might be hard for me moving forward, but I'm also glad to be my mind's blown right now.
Yeah. I apologize.
No, believe me, don't apologize. If anything, I'm sort of feeling grateful that I'm like, so much childhood shit's coming up about, like, here's why, when you go through life and you're like, why am I like this? Why do I do this?
Yeah.
And you can't figure things out, and then you just accept it.
And then out of nowhere, boom, something happens. Yeah. This might be the reason why you like dogs so much. Who knows? You may not even really like dogs. It's just you just been conditioned to like dogs for some reason.
I love dogs.
Oh, that's not a trauma thing. You love dogs.
I don't ever want that questioned, and it's not. There's nothing untoward there. It's not anything other than I love dogs. There's nothing sexual. There's nothing weird. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying,
you just love dogs.
Never question my passion for animals. That's something I will not waver on.
Yeah, not a problem.
I don't want that questioned.
Okay, and we could take that we can remove that from the interview, because I don't even want people to think you don't love dogs. So
that's
I respect that. I respect that. I respect that.
I know editing is a tough craft, and you got to make various choices, and if you think it serves the story, you can leave it in. If anything, I almost feel like maybe it's a more compelling, I don't know. I'm just, I'm really thrown for a loop right now because so many things are going through my mind from childhood and things that I gotta like. I'm gonna have to ask some tough questions to my parents. I'm gonna have to ask some tough questions to myself.
Yeah.
This is like fucked up, man. I'm really, and again, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at anyone, at least not yet.
Yeah.
And I'm just fucking stunned right now because I'm putting two and two together for the first time as a middle-aged man.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird. Whoa.
Yeah, so I understand, you know what I'm saying, things is, you know, so you got a lot going on right now this second, but we're going to have to stop this interview now. And I hate that on a cliffhanger like that, but we have other things to do. So I want to thank Mr. Jon Glaser for being here today for the Novelizers. Thank you a lot for joining us today.
Listen, thank you for having me and thank you for helping me with make this unintentional breakthrough. I might end up being extremely grateful.
Yeah, hopefully we might never know. We will see if you come back and
hold on.
All right.
Get down from there. Sorry, my dog is jumping up on the counter. Get down. No. Sorry. Well, this is good timing to go anyway because he's.
It sounds like real love. That sounds like real love.
Well, it's tough love sometimes, but listen, dogs can't jump on the counter. They have dirty paws.
Yeah. Dirty paws. You understand? Even that, you know, you're measuring it out. The dirty thing.
Oh my God!
Cool. It's all around you. It's all around you.
A lot of connections today.
A lot of connections. Well, this has been the Novelizers. Please enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
All right, thank you. Down. Get down. No.
Well, that's it. I've had it. Special thanks to Evan Allgood, Sunita Mani, and Jon Glaser. Steve, what do we have next week?
I'm glad you asked, Dave. Next week, we'll have actress Avital Ash narrating our chapter with comedian Arthur Meyer joining us for the interview.
The Novelizers is hosted by Dave Hill with Stephen Levinson and produced by Stephen, Cole Emhoff, Graham Douglas, Kevin Carter, Christine Bullen, Dennis DeClaudio, and Rob Kuttner, and distributed by Cincinnati Public Radio. Mixed and edited by Graham Douglas, music by Cole Emhoff, art direction by Crystal Dennis, theme song written by Andrew Lynn and performed by Nick Testa. Follow the Novelizers on Threads, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and support us on Patreon. The Novelizers is an unauthorized work of parody. Copyright 2025, Novelizers, LLC. Take us out, Dave Hill.
There was a baby put in the corner. There was a guy who could give your mama boner. He taught her dancing, it took a minute, and she flew into his arms just like an egret. Novelize that movie, write a book, and also read it to me.